Hello Finn, hello Lachlan, it's Alex again. I still can't go to the theatre today to do my play, so I thought I would read you another story, and this is one I wanted to share with my friends Emily and Julia too. And it's from The Folk of the Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. And this is the story of Curious Connie in the Land of Secrets. Curious Connie could not forget the exciting faraway tree and the different lands that came at the top. She asked the others about all the different lands they had been to and begged them to take her to the next one. "Well, we'll see what Moonface says," said Joe at last. "We don't go to every land, Connie. You wouldn't like to go to the land of Whizabout, for instance, would you? Moonface once went there and he said he couldn't bear it. Everything went at such a pace and he was out of breath the whole time." "Well, I think it sounds rather exciting," said Connie, who was intensely curious about everything to do with the different lands. "Oh, Joe, do let's find out what land is there next. I really must go." "All right," said Joe. "We'll ask Mother if we can have the day off tomorrow, and we'll go up the tree if you like. But mind, if there is a horrid land, we're not going. We've had too many narrow escapes now to risk getting caught somewhere nasty." Mother said they might go up the tree the next day. "Well, I'll give you sandwiches if you like, and you can have dinner in the wood or up the tree, whichever you like," she told them. "Oh, up the tree!" cried Connie. So when the next day came, she wore old clothes without even being told. She was learning to be sensible at last. They set off soon after breakfast. They hadn't let Silky or Moonface know they were coming, but they felt sure they would be in the tree. They jumped over the ditch and made their way through the whispering wood till they came to the faraway tree. Joe whistled for the red squirrel to tell him to go up and ask Moonface to send cushions down. But the red squirrel didn't come. "Oh, bother," said Bessie. "Now we'll have to climb up, and it's so hot." So up they climbed. The angry pixie was sitting at his window, which was wide open. He waved to them, and Connie was glad to see he had no ink or water to throw at her. "Going up to the land of secrets?" he shouted to them. "Oh, is the land of secrets there?" cried Joe. "It sounds exciting. What's it like?" "Oh, just secrets," said the angry pixie. "You can usually find out anything you badly want to know. I believe What's-His-Name wanted to try and find out exactly what his real name is, so maybe he'll visit it too." "I'd like to know some secrets too," said Connie. "What secrets do you want to know?" asked Joe. "Oh, I'd like to know how much money the old man who lives next door to us at home has got," said Connie. "And I'd like to know what Mrs. Toms at home has done to make people not speak to her, and—" "What an awful girl you are," said Bessie. "Those are other people's secrets, not yours. Fancy wanting to find out other people's secrets." "Yes, it's horrid of you, Connie," said Franny. "Joe, don't let Connie go into the land of secrets if that's the kind of thing she wants to find out. She's gone all curious and prying again, like she used to be." Connie was angry. She went red and glared at the others. "Well, don't you want to know secrets too?" she said. "You said you did." "Yes, but not other people's," said Joe at once. "I'd like to know where to find the very first violets, for instance, so that I could surprise Mother on her birthday with a great big bunch. They are her favourite flowers. And I'd like to know the secret of curly hair, so that I could use it on all my dolls," said Bessie. "And I'd like to know the secret of growing lettuces with big hearts," said Franny. "Mine never grow nice ones." "What awfully silly secrets," said Connie. "Better to want to know a silly secret than a horrid one, or one that doesn't belong to you," said Joe. "All you want to do is poke your nose into other people's affairs, Connie, and that's a horrid thing to do." Connie climbed the tree, not speaking a word to the others. She was very angry with them. She was so angry that she didn't look out for Dame Washalot's water coming down the tree, and it suddenly swished all round her and soaked her dress. That made her crosser still, especially when the others laughed. "All right," said Connie in a nasty voice. "I'll find out your secrets too. Where you've put your new book so that I can't borrow it, Joe. And where you've put your big eraser, Bessie.
And I'll find out which of your dolls you like the best, Franny, and smack her hard."
"You really are a nasty child," said Joe. "You won't go up into the land of secrets, so don't worry yourself about all these things." They climbed up to Silky's house, but it was shut. They went up to Moonface's, but dear me, his door was shut too. The old saucepan man was not about, and neither was what's-his-name. Nobody seemed about at all. "Perhaps Saucepan's mother would know," said Bessie. So they climbed down to Dame Washalot and found old Mrs. Saucepan there.
"Saucepan and what's-his-name have both gone up into the land of secrets,"
she told them.
"but I don't know about Silky and Moonface. I expect they've gone with them, though Saucepan didn't tell me they were going. Have a bun?"
Old Mrs. Saucepan was already busy making all kinds of delicious buns and biscuits, ready to open her shop on Dame Washalot's broad branch. 2 goblins were busy making a stall for her. She meant to open her little shop the next day. The children took the buns with thanks. They were really delicious. They climbed up the tree again to Moonface's house. Joe turned the handle. The door opened, but the curved room inside was empty. "What a nuisance," said Joe. "Now what shall we do?"
"We might as well go up into the land of secrets and find the others and have our picnic with them,"
said Franny.
"Yes,"
said Connie, who was dying to go up into this new land. "Well, but we didn't want Connie to go," said Joe. "She'd only go prying into other people's secrets, and we can't have that."
"I won't try and find out your secrets,"
said Connie.
"I promise I won't."
"I don't know if I trust you," said Joe. "But still, we can't go without you. So if you come, Connie, just be careful, and do remember that you may get into trouble if you act stupidly." "I wonder if old What's-his-name has found out what his real name is," said Bessie, beginning to climb up to the topmost branch. "I'd love to know it. It would be nice to call him something else. What's-his-name is such a silly name." They all went up to the topmost branch, and up the yellow ladder, through the hole in the vast cloud, and then into the land of secrets. It was a curious land, quiet, perfectly still, and a sort of twilight hung over it. There was no sun to be seen at all. "It feels secret and solemn," said Joe, with a little shiver. "I'm not sure I like it." "Come on," said Bessie. "Let's go and find the others and see how we get to know secrets." They came to a hill, in which were several coloured doors, set with sparkling stones that glittered in the curious twilight. "They must be the doors of caves," said Joe. "Look, there are names on the doors." The children read them. They were very strange names. Witch Know-a-lot, the Enchanter Wise Man, Dame Tell-you-all, Mrs. Hidden, the Wizard Tall Hat. "They all sound awfully clever and wise and learned," said Joe. "Oh, hello, here's somebody coming." A tall elf was coming along, carrying a pair of wings. She stopped and spoke to the children. "Do you know where Dame Tell-you-all lives, please? I want to know how to fasten on these wings and fly with them." "She lives in that cave," said Bessie, pointing to where a door had Dame Tell-you-all painted on it in big curly letters. "Thank you," said the elf, and rapped sharply at the door. It opened, and she went inside. It shut. In about half a minute it opened again, and out came the elf, this time with the wings on her back. She rose into the air and flew off, waving to the children. "The dame's awfully clever," she cried. "I can fly now. Look!" "This is an exciting place," said Bessie. "Goodness, the things we could learn. I wish I had a pair of wings. I've a good mind to go and ask Dame Tell-you-all how to get some, and then how to fly with them." "Look, isn't that old What's-his-name coming along?" said Joe suddenly. They looked in the dim distance, and saw that it was indeed What's-his-name, looking rather proud. Saucepan was with him, his pans clashing as usual. "Hi! What's-his-name?" called Joe loudly. What's-his-name came up.
"My name is not What's-his-name,"
he said a little haughtily.
"I've at last found out what it is. It is a perfectly marvellous name."
"Oh, what is it?" asked Bessie.
"It is Colla Mooley Tubarelli Porky Rollo,"
said What's-his-name, very proudly indeed.
"In future, please call me by my real name."
"Oh dear, I shall never remember that," said Franny, and she tried to say it, but she didn't get any further than Colla Mooley, nor did the others. "No wonder everyone called him What's-his-name," said Bessie to Franny. "What's-his-name? Where are Silky and Moonface?"
"My name is not What's-his-name,"
said What's-his-name patiently.
"I have told you what it is. Please address me correctly in future."
"He's gone all high and mighty," said Joe. "Saucepan, where are Silky and Moonface?"
"Don't know,"
said Saucepan.
"Don't shout at me like that. I haven't seen Silky or Moonface today."
"Let's have our picnic here, and then go and see if Silky and Moonface have come home," said Joe. "I don't think somehow we'll go about finding out secrets. This land is a bit too mysterious for me." But Connie made up her mind she would find out a few secrets. She would have a bit of fun on her own. They all sat down on a flowery bank. It was still twilight, which seemed very queer, as Joe's watch said the time was 12:30 in the middle of the day. As they ate, they watched the different visitors coming and going to the cave on the hillside. There was an old woman who wanted to ask Witch-Know-a-lot the secret of youth, so that she might become young again. And there was a tiny goblin who had once done a wicked thing and couldn't forget it. He wanted to know the secret of forgetting, and that is one of the most difficult secrets in the world, if you have done something really bad. The children talked to everyone who passed. It was strange, the different secrets that people wanted to know. One cross-looking brownie wanted to know the secret of laughter.
"I've never laughed in my life," he told Joe, "and I'd like to, but nothing ever seems funny to me. Perhaps the enchanter wise man can tell me. He's very, very clever."
The enchanter plainly knew the secret of laughter, because when the cross-looking brownie came out of the cave, he was smiling. He roared with laughter as he passed the picnicking party. "Such a joke!" he said to them. "Such a joke!"
"What was the secret?"
asked Connie. "That's nothing to do with you," said the brownie. "That's my secret, not yours." The tiny goblin, who had once done a wicked thing, came up to the children. "Did you find out the secret of forgetting?" asked Bessie. The goblin nodded.
"I'll tell it to you, because then if you do a wrong thing, maybe you can get right with yourself afterwards," he said. "It's so dreadful if you can. Well, the wizard Tall Hat told me that if I can do 100 really kind deeds to make up for the one very, very bad one I did, maybe I'll be able to forget a little and think better of myself. So I'm off to do my first kind deed."
"Goodness, it'll take him a long time to make up for his one wicked deed," said Joe. "Poor little goblin. It must be awful to do something wicked and not be able to forget it. No wonder he looked so unhappy." A very grand fairy came flying down to the hillside. She looked rich and mighty and very beautiful. Connie wondered what secret she had come to find out. It must be a very fine secret indeed. The fairy did not tell the children what she wanted to know. She just smiled at them and went to knock on Mrs. Hidden's door.
"Oh, did you see that fairy?"
said What's-his-name.
"It would be interesting to know what secret she is after. She has beauty and wealth and power. Whatever secret could she want now?"
"What do you think she wants to know, What's-his-name?" asked Connie.
"Call me by my proper name and I might tell you,"
said What's-his-name haughtily. But Connie couldn't remember it, nor could the others.
"Well, it isn't going to be much use finding out my real name if nobody is going to bother to remember it," said What's-his-name in a huff. "Saucepan, do you remember my name?"
"Shame? Oh, yes, it is a shame," said Saucepan. In the middle of all the explanations to Saucepan as to what What's-his-name had really said, Connie slipped away unseen. She was longing to know what secret the beautiful fairy wanted to find out. It must be a very powerful secret. If only she could hear it. Perhaps if she listened outside Mrs. Hidden's door, she might catch a few words. She went off very quietly, without being seen, and climbed a little way up the hillside to where she had noticed Mrs. Hidden's door. There it was, a pale green one, striped with red lines and a curious pattern. It was open. Connie crept up to it. She could hear voices inside. She stood in the doorway and peeped inside. There was a winding passage leading into the hill from the doorway. So she crept down it. She turned a corner and found herself looking into a very curious room. It was small, and yet it looked very, very big, because when Connie looked at the corners, they faded away and weren't there. It was the same with the ceiling, which Connie felt sure was very low. But when she looked up at it, it wasn't there either. There didn't seem to be any end or beginning to the room at all, and yet Connie knew that it was small. It gave her the uncomfortable feeling that she was in a dream. She tried to see Mrs. Hidden. She could see the beautiful fairy quite well, and she could hear Mrs. Hidden, whoever she was, speaking in a low, deep voice. But she couldn't see her.
Oh well, I suppose she's called Mrs. Hidden because she is hidden from our sight, thought Connie. I will just hear what she says to the fairy, and then slip away.
Connie heard the secret that the beautiful fairy wanted to know, and she heard Mrs. Hidden give her the answer. Connie shivered with delight. It was a very wonderful, very powerful secret. Connie meant to use it herself. She began to creep out of the cave. But her foot caught against a loose stone in the passage, and it made a noise. At once, Mrs. Hidden called out in a sharp voice, "Who's there? Who's prying and peeping? Who's listening? I'll put a spell on you, I will. If you have heard any secrets, you will not be able to speak again." Connie fled, afraid of having a spell put on her. She came rushing down the hillside, her face very frightened. The others heard her and frowned.
Connie, surely you haven't been after secrets when we said you were not to try and find out anything, began Joe.
Connie opened her mouth to answer, but not a word came out. Not one single word.
She can't speak,
said What's-his-name.
She's been listening at doors and hearing things not meant for her ears. I guess old Mrs. Hidden has put a spell on her, and serves her right.
Connie opened her mouth and tried to speak again, pointing back to the cave she had come from. Saucepan got up in a hurry. "I can see what she means to say," he said to the others. "She's been caught prying and peeping, and she's afraid Mrs. Hidden will come after her. She probably will as soon as she has finished with the beautiful fairy who went into her cave. We'd better go. Mrs. Hidden is not a nice person to deal with when she's angry." They all ran to the hole and got down it as quickly as possible. Connie was so anxious to get away from Mrs. Hidden that she almost fell off the topmost branch. Joe caught her dress just in time. "Look out," he said. "You nearly went headlong down the tree. Let me go first." Connie couldn't answer. Mrs. Hidden's spell was plainly very strong. She simply couldn't say a word. It was very strange and very horrid. "I say, do you suppose Silky and Moonface are still up there in the Land of Secrets?" asked Bessie. But they weren't, for as they came down the branch to Moonface's house, they heard voices and saw Silky and Moonface undoing parcels of shopping. "Oh, so you went shopping, did you?" said Joe. "We wondered where you were."
"Yes, we took the little red squirrel shopping and brought him a new jersey," said Moonface. "He's terribly pleased. I say, did you go up into the Land of Secrets? Did you find out anything?"
"Yes,
"We found out What's-his-name's real name," said Joe.
"Oh, good," said Silky. "I've always wanted to know it. What is it, Joe?"
Joe wrinkled up his forehead. "I can't remember," he said.
"What's the good of a name nobody remembers?"
said What's-his-name gloomily.
"It's just stupid." "You tell me it, and I'll promise to remember," said Silky. "I'll write it down and learn it by heart, What's-his-name. Really, I will."
What's-his-name said nothing. Silky gave him a little nudge.
Go on, what's his name? Tell me your name, slowly now, so that I can say it after you.
What's his name shook his head and suddenly looked miserable. I can't tell you my name, he said at last. I've forgotten it myself. It was such a fine name, too. You'll have to call me what's-his-name just the same as before. I expect that's why people did begin to call me what's-his-name, because nobody could ever remember my real name. Well, it's a pity to think that the only secret we found out has been forgotten already, said Joe. Though I suppose Connie found out a secret she wasn't supposed to know and got punished for it. Moonface, Connie can't speak. Isn't it awful? Good thing, said Saucepan, hearing unexpectedly. Never says anything really sensible. Connie glared at him and opened her mouth to say something sharp, but no words came out. Silky looked at her in sympathy.
Oh, poor Connie. Whatever can we do about it? We'll have to wait till the Land of Enchantments comes, and then go up and find someone who can take the spell away. I don't know how to make you better.
Why bother? Said Saucepan, quite enjoying Connie's anger at being unable to answer him back. Why bother? She'll be much nicer if she can't say a word. We shan't know she's there.
But never mind, Connie, said Bessie, seeing that Connie looked really upset. As soon as the Land of Enchantments comes, we'll take you there and have you put right.
Mother was surprised to find that Connie couldn't speak, and very much alarmed. We'd better take her to the doctor, she said. Oh, no, Mother, that's no use, said Joe. It's a spell that Mrs. Hidden put on Connie for hearing something she shouldn't have listened to. Only another spell can put her right. When the Land of Enchantments comes, we will take Connie there and see if we can find someone who will give her voice back again, said Bessie. She'll have to be patient till then, said Franny. But Connie wasn't patient. She kept opening her mouth to try and speak, but she couldn't say a word. Connie shouldn't be so curious, said Joe. It's her own fault she's like this. Perhaps it will teach her a lesson. 3 days went by, and no news came from the tree folk. Then old Mrs. Saucepan arrived with a basket full of lovely new-made cakes for the children's mother.
I've heard so much about you,
she said to their mother, smiling all over her apple-cheeked face.
I felt I must come and call on you, madam, and bring you a few of my cakes. I have started a shop up the tree near Dame Washalot, and should be so pleased to serve you if I could.
Stop and have tea with us, and we'll try your cakes, said Mother at once. She liked the little old lady very much, so Mrs. Saucepan stopped and had tea. She shook her head when she saw that Connie still could not speak.
A pity, she said, a great pity. It just doesn't do to poke your nose into other people's affairs. I hope the poor child will be put right soon. The Land of Enchantments will be at the top of the tree tomorrow.
Everyone sat up. What? So soon? Said Joe. That's a bit of luck for Connie.
Oh, it is, said old Mrs. Saucepan. Still, there are plenty of lands where she might get her voice put right. You'll have to be just a bit careful in the Land of Enchantments, though. It's so easy to get enchanted there without knowing it.
Whatever do you mean? Said Mother in alarm. I don't think I want the children to go there, if there is any danger.
I'll send Saucepan with them,
said the old lady.
I'll give him a powerful spell which will get anyone out of an enchantment if they get into it by mistake. You needn't worry.
Oh, that's all right then, said Joe. I didn't want to get enchanted and have to stay up there for the rest of my life.
You must remember one or two things, said Mrs. Saucepan. Don't step into a ring drawn on the ground in chalk. Don't stroke any black cats with green eyes. And don't be rude to anyone at all.
We'll remember, said Joe. Thank you very much. Will you tell Saucepan we'll be up the tree tomorrow, please? Old Mrs. Saucepan left after tea, having made firm friends with Mother, who promised to send the children once a week to buy cakes. We'll go to the Land of Enchantments tomorrow, said Joe. Cheer up, Connie. You'll soon get your voice back. The next day was very rainy, and Mother didn't want the children to go up the tree. But Connie's eyes filled with tears, and Mother saw how badly she longed to go. Well, put on your macs, she said, and take umbrellas. Then you'll be all right. It may not be raining in the Land of Enchantments. And do remember what Mrs. Saucepan said, Joe, and be very, very careful. We'll be careful, said Joe, putting on his old mackintosh. No treading in chalk rings, no stroking of black cats with green eyes, and no rudeness from anyone. Off they went. The tree was very slippery to climb because it was so wet. Somebody had run a thick rope all the way down it, and the children were glad to hold on to it as they went up the tree. The angry pixie was in a temper that morning because the rain had come in at his window and made puddles on the floor. He was scooping up the water and throwing it out of the window. "Look out," said Joe. "Go round the other side of the tree. The angry pixie's in a rage." Silky was not at home. Dame Washalot, for once in a way, was doing no washing because it really was too wet to dry it. So she was helping Mrs. Saucepan to bake cakes on her little stove inside the tree. The children got a hot bun each. Saucepan and Silky were at Moonface's house, waiting for the children to come. "Where's what's-his-name?" said Joe.
"Gone to sleep," said Moonface. "Didn't you see him on the way up? Oh no, he'd be indoors on a day like this, of course. He sat up half the night trying to remember his real name and write it down so that he wouldn't forget it again. So he was very sleepy this morning. And he didn't remember his name, of course."
"Is the Land of Enchantments up there?" said Joe, nodding his head towards the top of the tree.
"It must be," said Silky. "I've met 2 witches and 2 enchanters coming down the tree today. They don't live here, so they must have come down from the Land of Enchantments."
"They come down to get the scarlet-spotted toadstools that grow in the enchanted wood," said Saucepan. "They are very magic, you know. They can be used in hundreds of spells."
"Oh, there goes an old wizard or enchanter now,"
said Silky, as someone in a tall pointed hat went down past Moonface's door.
"Shall we go now? I'm sure Connie will be glad to get her voice back."
Connie nodded. But she suddenly remembered what Mrs. Saucepan had said, that she would give Saucepan a very powerful spell, so that if any of them got caught in an enchantment, Saucepan could set them free by using his spell. But she couldn't say all this, of course, so she pulled out the notebook she had been using for messages and scribbled something on one of the pages. She showed it to Joe. "What about the spell that Saucepan was going to take with him?" "My goodness, yes," said Joe, and he turned to Saucepan. "Did your mother give you a powerful spell to take with you, Saucepan, in case we get caught in an enchantment?" "My gracious," said Saucepan, beginning to look all round him in a hurry. "Where did I put it? Silky, have you seen it? What did I do with it?"
"You really are a silly, Saucepan,"
said Silky, looking everywhere.
"You know it's a spell that can move about. It's no use putting it down for a minute because it will only move off somewhere."
The spell was found at last. It was a funny round red spell with little things that stuck out all round it, rather like spiders' legs. It could move about with these and had walked off Moonface's mantelpiece and settled itself down at the edge of the slippery slip. "Look at that," said Saucepan, snatching it up quickly. "Another inch and it would have been down the slippery slip and gone forever. Wherever shall I put it for safety?" "In a kettle, and put the lid on," said Joe. So into a kettle went the spell, and the lid was put on as tightly as could be. "It's safe now," said Saucepan. "Come on, up we go, and be careful, everyone." They all left their umbrellas and Macs behind, and up into the Land of Enchantments they went. It wasn't a twilight land like the Land of Secrets. It was a land of strange colours and lights and shadows. Everything shone and shimmered and moved. Nothing stayed the same for more than a moment. It was beautiful and strange. There were curious little shops everywhere, where witches, enchanters, and goblins cried their wares. There was a shining palace that looked as if it was made of glass and towered up into the sky. The enchanter Mighty One lived there. He was the head of the whole land. There were magic cloaks for sale that could make anyone invisible at once. How Joe longed to buy one. There were silver wands full of magic. There were enchantments for everything. "Spell to turn your enemy into a spider," cried a goblin. "Spell to enchant a bird to your hand. Spell to understand the whispering of the trees." The spells and enchantments were very expensive, Nobody could possibly buy them, for no one in the little company had more than a few pence in their pockets. Even the cheapest spell cost a sack of gold.
"Oh, look at all those pixies dancing in a ring and singing as they dance," said Bessie, turning her head as she saw a party of bright-winged pixies capering in a ring together. She went over to watch them, and they smiled at her and held out their hands. "Come and dance too, little girl," they cried. Bessie didn't see that they were all dancing inside a ring drawn on the ground in white chalk. In a trice, she was in the ring too, linking hands with the pixies and dancing round and round. The others watched, smiling. Then Joe gave a cry of horror and pointed to the ground. "Bessie's gone into a chalk ring! Bessie, come out, quick!" Bessie looked alarmed. She dropped the hands of the pixies and came to the edge of the ring. But alas, poor Bessie couldn't jump over it. She was a prisoner in the magic ring. "Saucepan, get out the spell at once, the one your mother gave you," cried Joe. "Quick, quick, before anything happens to Bessie. She may be getting enchanted." Saucepan took the lid off the kettle into which he had put the spell. He put in his hand and groped round. He groped, and and an alarmed look came onto his face. "Saucepan, be quick," said Joe. "The spell is gone," said Saucepan dolefully. "Look in the kettle, Joe. The spell isn't there. I can't get Bessie out of the magic ring." Everyone stared at Saucepan in horror. "Saucepan, the spell can't be gone. Why, you put the lid on as tightly as can be," said Silky. "Let me look." Everyone looked, but it was quite plain to see that the kettle was empty. There was no spell there. "Well, maybe you didn't put it into that kettle, but into another one," said Joe. "You've got so many hanging around you. Look in another kettle, Saucepan." So Saucepan looked into every one of his kettles, big and small, and even into his saucepans too. But that spell was not to be found.
"It's really most peculiar," said Moonface, puzzled. "I don't see how it could possibly have got out. Oh dear, why didn't one of us keep the spell instead of Saucepan? We might have known he would lose it."
"We're in real danger in this strange land without a spell to protect us," said Silky. "But we can't run off home because we mustn't leave Bessie in a magic ring, and we have to try to get Connie put right. Oh dear." "We'll have to find someone who will get Bessie out of the ring," said Joe anxiously. "Let's go round the land of enchantments and see if anyone will help us." So they started off, leaving poor Bessie looking sadly after them. But the pixies took her hands and made her dance once again. The children came to a small shop, at the back of which sat a goblin with green ears and eyes. In front of him were piled boxes and bottles of all sorts, some with such strange spells in them that they shimmered as if they were alive. "Could you help us?" said Joe politely. "Our sister has got into a magic chalk ring by mistake, and we want to get her out again." The goblin grinned. "Oh no, I'm not helping you to get her out," he said. "Magic chalk rings are one of our little traps to keep people here."
"You're a very nasty person, then,"
said Moonface, who was very upset because he was very fond of Bessie. The goblin glared at him and moved his big green ears backwards and forwards like a dog. "How dare you call me names?" he said. "I'll turn you into a gramophone that can do nothing but call rude names if you're not careful."
"Indeed you won't," said Moonface, getting angry. "What a silly little goblin like you, daring to put a spell on me, the great Moonface. You think too much of yourself, little green ears. Go and bury yourself in the garden."
"Moonface," said Franny suddenly, "don't be rude. Remember what Mrs. Saucepan said."
But it was too late. Moonface had been rude, and now he was in the goblin's power. When the green-eared little creature beckoned slyly to him, poor Moonface found that his legs took him to the goblin, no matter how much he tried not to go. "You'll be my servant now, great Moonface," said the goblin. "Now, just begin a little work, please. Sort out those boxes into their right sizes for me. And remember, no more rudeness." Franny burst into tears. She couldn't bear to see Moonface doing what the nasty little goblin said. "Oh, Saucepan, why did you lose that spell?" she wailed. "Why did you?" "Here's a powerful-looking enchanter," said Joe, as a tall man in a great flowing cloak swept by. "Maybe he could help us." He stopped the enchanter and spoke to him. A fine black cat came out from the tall man's shimmering cloak and strolled over to Silky, blinking his great green eyes at her. "Can you help us, please?" asked Joe politely. "Some of our friends are in difficulties here." He was just going on to explain when he suddenly stopped and made a dart at Silky, who was stroking the black cat and saying sweet things to it. She was very fond of cats and stroked everyone she saw, but she mustn't do that in the land of enchantments. But it was too late. She had done it. Now she had to follow the enchanter, who smiled lazily round at the little company.
"A nice little elf," he said to them. "I shall like having her around with the black cat. She will be company for him. She can cook the mice he catches. He won't eat them raw."
To the great dismay of the others, the enchanter swept off, his cloak flowing out and covering poor Silky and the cat. "Oh, now Silky's gone," sobbed Franny. "First it was Bessie, then Moonface, and now Silky. Whatever are we to do?" "Look!" said Saucepan suddenly, and he pointed to a little shop nearby. On it was painted a sentence in yellow paint. "Come here to get things you have lost." "What about trying to get Connie's voice there?" said Saucepan. "Not that I want her to have her voice back. I think she's much nicer without it, but we might be able to get it back if we go to that shop." They went over to it, Franny still wiping her eyes. The shop was kept by the same beautiful fairy who had flown to Mrs. Hidden's cave and whose secret Connie had overheard. Connie was afraid of going to her, but Saucepan pulled her over to the shop. The beautiful fairy knew Saucepan and was delighted to see him. When he told her about Connie, she looked grave. "Yes, I know all about it," she said. "It was my secret she heard, and a very wonderful secret it was. Has she written it down to tell any of you?" Connie shook her head. She took out her little notebook and wrote in it. She tore out the page and gave it to the fairy. "I am terribly sorry for what I did," the fairy read. "Please forgive me. I haven't told the secret, and I never will. If you will give me back my lost voice, I promise never to peep and pry again, or to try and overhear things not meant for me." "I will forgive you," said the fairy gravely. "But, Connie, if ever you do tell the secret, I am afraid your voice will be lost again and will never come back. Look, I will give it back to you now, but remember to be careful in future." She handed Connie a little bottle of blue and yellow liquid and a small red glass. "Drink what is in the bottle," she said. "Your voice is there. It's a good thing I didn't sell it to anyone." Connie poured out the curious liquid and drank it. It tasted bitter, and she made a face. "Oh, how horrid!" she cried, and then clapped her hands in joy. "I can speak! My voice is back! Oh, I can talk!" "It's a pity," said Saucepan. "I like you better when you don't talk. Still, I needn't listen." Connie was so excited at having her voice back again that she talked and talked without stopping. The others were very silent. Both Joe and Saucepan were worried, and Franny was still crying. "Be quiet, Connie," said Joe at last. "Saucepan, what shall we do?" "Go back and ask my mother for another spell," said Saucepan. "That's the best I can think of." So they all went back to the hole in the clouds, but they couldn't get down it because there were so many people coming up. "The land of enchantments must be moving away again soon," said Saucepan in dismay. "Look, everyone is hurrying back to it with their toadstools and things." "We can't risk going down to your mother then," said Joe, more worried than ever. "If the land moves on, it will take Moonface, Bessie and Silky with it, and we shall never see them again." They sat down at the edge of the hole and looked worried and upset. What in the world were they to do? Then Franny gave such a loud cry that everyone jumped hard.
What's that? What's that sticking out of the spout of that kettle, Saucepan? Something red, waving about. Look!
Everyone did look, and Saucepan gave a yell.
It's the spell! It must have crawled up the spout, and that's why we didn't see it when we looked in the kettle. It couldn't get out because the spout is too small. Those are its leg things waving about, trying to get out of the spout.
Quick, get it out, Saucepan,
said Joe.
Bad spell, naughty spell,
said Saucepan severely, and poked his finger in the spout, pushing the spell right back. It fell with a little thud into the inside of the kettle. In a trice, Saucepan took off the lid, put in his hand, and grabbed the spell. He jumped to his feet.
Come on, maybe we've just got time to rescue the others. Bessie first.
They rushed to the magic chalk ring, and Saucepan stepped into it with the spell held firmly in his hand. At once, the chalk ring faded away, the pixies ran off squealing, and Bessie was free. How she hugged Saucepan!
No time to waste, no time to waste,
said Saucepan, and ran off to find Silky. He saw the enchanter in his flowing cloak, talking to a witch, and rushed up to him.
Silky, Silky, where are you? I've a spell to set you free,
cried Saucepan. The enchanter looked down and saw the wriggling red spell in Saucepan's hand. He shook out his cloak, and Silky at once appeared. Saucepan clutched her by the hand.
Come on, you're free. You don't need to follow him any more. He's afraid of this spell.
The enchanter certainly was. He ran off with his black cat without a word.
Now for Moonface, said Saucepan. Gracious, I can hear the humming noise that means this land will soon be on the move.
Indeed he could, and so could the others. With beating hearts they rushed to the green-eared goblin's shop. There was no time to waste. Saucepan threw the red spell at the goblin, and it went down his neck.
You're free, Moonface. Come quickly, cried Saucepan. The land is on the move.
Moonface rushed after the others, leaving the goblin to try and grope the wriggling spell out of his neck. Everyone rushed to the hole that led down through the cloud. The land was shaking a little already, as if it was just going to move. Bessie and Franny were pushed down quickly. Then Silky and Connie followed, almost falling down in their hurry. Then came Moonface and Joe, and last of all, Saucepan, who nearly got stuck in the hole with his saucepans and kettles. Finally, he got free and fell down with a bump.
The lane's just off,
he cried, as a creaking sound came down the ladder.
We only just escaped in time. Goodness, look how I've dented my kettles.
I hope you enjoyed that story, and I'll see you again next time. Bye now.